So I designed the show, my side of the show, to have this slump, this posture, but no faces, stripped down details, deconstructed design ad nauseum over and over and over. And it's really, if you got behind my eyeballs and into my brain and saw this, you'd say, because I can't generate this. Like my son is just like, you know, that movie was amazing, you know, or that movie sucked, you know, I hate it, you know, like it's just like, dude, how you really hate, you know, that movie, you know, you hate Han Solo. It's like, hate Trump, dude. Don't, you know, like, which he does, you know.
You know what this is. It's waiting to dry. You know who I am. Coming in hot in the beginning and flaming out by the end. I'm Sergio Lopez.
I'm Josh Lawyer.
And we got Matt Ritchie, a.k.a. Rat136 today.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
What's up, man? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
thanks for making the trek.
It was quite a trek.
Yeah. That's like a 3. You came from Sacramento. And that's a...
Yeah, I spent the night in Sacramento last night. And it was a little over 2 hour.
Oh, you might have the second longest trek. We had
Jon Wentz from somewhere way the heck out.
Oh, also Kim.
That's right.
Drawing a blank on his name. He drove from Mississippi.
Oh wow! Yeah, no, I don't live in Sacramento, so
yeah, that's brutal though.
Hopefully, getting home isn't going to be as bad. Going back to the
East Bay.
Yeah, the East Bay.
You just got to worry about Berkeley. That's like where it happens.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Petaluma these days has that snag in the middle of it too now.
Do you make it up north much?
I used to when I was skating all your parks.
Okay.
Sebastopol in that area?
Yeah, Petaluma, Sebastopol.
Off of,
all of them. You know, going all the way up.
You grew up skateboarding?
Yeah, I've been skating for a long time.
Nice. That's cool.
35 years or so.
Wow.
Damn.
So you can do stuff.
I still can, yeah.
That's cool.
I peaked and then declined.
Did you get sponsored and all that good stuff?
No, I didn't get sponsored. I did do a lot of graphics and stuff, so I got free everything when I was doing art for various companies. But
that's kind of being sponsored.
It's like being sponsored without being good enough.
Yeah,
without having to break your bones to get sponsored.
That's cool. And
I broke my bones.
Yeah,
without being sponsored.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So were you obsessed with that?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with everything I'm interested in.
Right.
Oh, really?
I mean, I assume that with most artists, at least people pursuing art seriously, you kind of have that tendency. Like we as a group have a tendency to just latch on to something and then go overboard with it and kind of let it consume us in general. I know right before we started recording, you were talking about music, and it seemed like that's a huge obsession of yours.
Obsession, yeah.
That's
always
cool.
had an interest, never played
Oh, really?
an
That's
instrument,
awesome.
but really just pursued it like a psycho.
Yeah,
you know?
That's awesome.
You never had an interest in playing?
I've always had an interest in playing, but for me, it's a time and you know, a time issue.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was so spent so much of my time just working on my art and pursuing that, you know. But it's like skateboarding. I find some way to be involved, and I did a lot of album covers and worked with a lot of musicians using my art, so I could have proximity to my passions using the one that I'm really refining and constantly building.
Huh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's awesome. When you were skating, was that a thing? Like when you began skateboarding, was it like the thing it is? I'm assuming it isn't the thing it is today.
No, that culture's changed quite a bit, but I think the foundation's still strong in skateboarding, you know, and it's like, you know, my most serious skateboarding's been in the Bay Area, and I met, you know, so many amazing skaters, and there's so much of the industry in the Bay Area too.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just, you know, it's just so much fun.
For sure.
It's just such a easy thing to become totally obsessed with out there.
Huh. Yeah,
Plus, I love progression and I like challenging myself, and skateboarding will
definitely.
Oh yeah.
it'll show you what
Huge
you're made
learning
of.
curve. Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those things where you just probably can continue learning for a lifetime, at least until your body allows it.
Yeah, there's a moment, where you're going to have to realize it's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. You're not going to really progress.
Mhm.
And now, it's just like I'm not really interested in progressing and becoming a better skateboarder anymore, because I know what it takes, and what it takes is something I'm not willing to give up at this point. But I love riding. I love the feel of it. I still ride with my friends, and
That's cool.
I still
That's
have
cool.
a nice skill set, but I'm not just doing huge gaps and
Right.
skating monster bowls and rails and stuff that's going to break me off.
For sure.
You know the artist Andrew Schoultz, I think is his name. I'm horrible at names, so I might be dead wrong about the name.
You got a computer available. You can.
Yeah, that's true. And he's like one of the kind of came up with like the group with like Twist and all those guys.
Oh yeah.
And,
kind of what was the concept art group being with the skateboard based concept art group. They had the out in San Francisco. They had the show. See, now I'm brain farting too. But they built a bowl and stuff over at the art center in San Francisco, and I remember going out there, and it was like, Ed Templeton had a display out there, and a lot of artists.
Okay. Huh.
And they had it's a documentary about it, like Beautiful Losers, I think it was called.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
And I went out and skated the bowl like all the time, because if you brought in a skateboard, you're part of the art show, and they didn't charge you.
That's awesome.
And it's a big wooden kidney pool with pool coping in it. I had so much fun.
That's crazy. Huh.
Yeah.
Andrew Schultz. He does this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he looks familiar. I'm familiar with his work.
He's like an older gentleman now, and he just recently,
like myself,
he recently started getting back into skateboarding, and he'll put some of the videos on his Instagram. It's pretty inspiring to see, because he just got like his tray flip back or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, I finally landed that. Now I got that in my resume again.
I do that. Still, I'll go back and land a trick I haven't landed in like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Every once in a while, just kind of work on it until I kind of stick it.
That's cool. Is it like muscle? Like, do you remember, like, when you relearn how to land something? Do you all of a sudden get a flashback?
It doesn't stick. I still have to fight and hold on to it. It's like any skill set. If you just let it go to the wayside, you're not gonna have it
for sure.
Or it's gonna diminish.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I took the summer off from painting, and I'm just getting back into it. And there's like little things from I forgot I remembered to like set my palette up this way or something like that. It's like all these little things that just taking a summer off from painting and just drawing. I'm starting to remember things like, God, that's such a simple mistake I made, that I've just, as far as like speed wise, and saving time and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
If I get back into a different technique, because I work in so many mediums and so many different techniques, that if I take a break from one for a while, I notice it's not so much making mistakes, but it is the pace is a little slow until I start getting my rhythm back.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, you seem like you're pretty proficient as far as like putting out stuff, like, and just putting in work for your artwork in general.
It's pretty maniacal.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things I noticed about your work is like, it's almost like a vectored image, in that if you don't put a reference size to it, I have no idea if it's the size of this room or the size of a penny.
That's a good point. I've been told that a lot.
Yeah.
There's sort of a look that I want, a continuity in the look that I want at any scale. Right. A lot of times my scale has to kind of interlace and communicate with each other, the different size pieces. And so, I make sure, and everything has got to be hand done. Everything takes long.
Right.
And it's like, it's even the stuff that seems like at a glance, maybe that didn't take long. Everything really does take a significant amount of time.
That makes sense. I mean, even like when you're working as simple as you are, the colors have to be solid. You know, like I'm assuming you put a ton of layers or just.
Yeah, it depends on the paint. You know, you guys
Yeah.
paint, so you understand the opacity is different. And I work mostly in acrylic, so
yeah.
Okay.
And
you know,
I'm assuming
but I like a certain textural finish, like something that's not overly
textured,
smooth, but definitely not layered and textured and stuff like that.
Right.
For some of the works that I'm.
And what's the reasoning for that?
For that vectored effect.
Oh, okay.
I think that's kind of why it looks like this could be 2 by 2 feet or 2 by 2 inches.
Right.
You know, I just, you know, I don't, there's certain bumps and stuff in paint or certain like little, you know, like brush marks and stuff will kind of indicate scale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you want that?
I don't want that, you know, and that's just a personal preference.
Cool.
I have no feeling about, you know, how other people do it, but personally, I know pretty exactly what the kind of result I want when I'm designing, you know, my shows.
For sure. Yeah. Your work definitely looks like a machine made it, which is one of the impressive things about you hand making everything. It's like earlier we were talking about, and I thought you might laser cut your images to get that like very nice finish. To like, I mean, you know, people use CNCs and laser cuts all the time nowadays, and
I've used a CNC guy to do just like repeat things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, it's very handy if I'm doing. I've done a number of shows where I've done certain frameworks that I've wanted cut to a certain shape.
Oh, right.
But I needed them done. You know, I needed 40, 50 of them.
Right.
And that's something that, you know, I did a show a long time ago out in Oakland with my friends, my Zero Friends friends.
Okay, yeah.
And I did a bunch of these rats, 136. It's it was a branding concept, sort of a kind of a grassroots repetitive branding thing that just kind of environmentally or subtly changed messages and delved into different, you know, kind of cultures. But I did the rat frames. 136 of them I hand painted every one. And I was like, you know, but they needed to be the same. Most of them were the same exact size.
Uh-huh.
So why would I do that? That was just ridiculous, you know, to do that paint, you know, they were just black silhouette frames, but I had to hand cut them.
Wow.
And then a number of my friends were like, that's ridiculous. Why didn't you just have a guy, you know, to CNC those? And since then, it's just been when I do repeat things like that.
Could you use like a flush trim router bit? You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was just a lot easier. Just the routers, they kick up so much dust.
They do. They're
so dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, scrolling it, I scroll so fast that it's like, I draw with it almost.
Right.
And I remember like, so with that image too, it's my rat silhouette, the thing I've drawn it so many times, and I had a little tracing on it. You know, each I had a little template I just trace and then cut.
Oh, okay.
But then, you know, I didn't even need the tracing could have been faded or smeared or whatever. I didn't. I just was so. I cut so many frames towards the last like 80 of them. I was just like, you know.
Right. Speaking of muscle memory.
That's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't the smart way to go about that, and I've learned my lesson. When I'm repeating frames or doing that, I got a guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
So where does the insistence on doing it all handmade come from for you?
I just think if somebody else is going to acquire the piece, it's just something. It is a unique one of a kind, hand done.
Yeah,
and a lot of times it is also a speed thing too. You know, a laser cutters just makes no practical sense to me if I'm doing one piece, because then you got to program it and, you know, design cut. It's just like, you know, that's going to just tack on so much time. And then I've had my pieces done as a laser cut, like a couple of things done from a friend who has a laser cut company, and he's cut like little things to make into like a keepsake or something for certain shows. And the accuracy and the and stuff I'm just not as hype on. I think I could get in there a little tighter and do better work with my hand, and in a fraction of the time if I'm doing a one-off.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great. A laser cutter is great if you're making 500 of the same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it before, I think 2 episodes ago, where we had this long discussion about a painting versus
with Tony.
digital artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there is something special about handmade things in general.
Yeah.
Just the human touch. It's, you know, it's just part of like being human. And I think people really appreciate that aspect of art. That's one of the great things about our medium is the handmadeness of it or whatever. So, you know, when I see laser cut stuff, it's great and all, but I don't know, there is a little bit of preciousness or something like that I think it removes, which, you know, is great if you're going to like, do like a ton of like keychains or like pins, you know, like, or.
And I love making pins in my work. I've made a bunch,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's a great way to, you know, it's a print for me. You
Right.
know, for me, it's just like, because I do small and cut shaped things, dioramas, layers and stuff, you know, for a bulk of my work in the last few years, that like to have pins available of something like at a show or online or something like that. It's like being able to buy a print.
Yeah.
You know?
And your work translates to that so well, I think. And it allows
definitely.
someone that probably isn't going to be able to afford something that's handmade.
That's what I'm told all the time too. Like, hey, this is great, you know?
Yeah.
So when I do shows a lot now, I do try to provide something. Since I've been making pins, I try to make, you know, pins that are associated with that show.
Do you make the actual pins?
No, I mean, I have a company that I go through. I'll submit the designs and stuff. And
Okay. I was going to be even more surprised.
Oh, yeah.
You really surprised me a bunch. Nice. Did you grow up like obsessed with comic book and kind of like nerd fandom? No offense, just.
No, there's no offense in that. No, you could see it like kind of again, I should say, now with my work that, you know, I went through, you know, phases as we all do as we're growing up and with what we want to do artistically and what's important to us and stuff.
For sure.
And lately I've been using pop culture as kind of a language to communicate a lot of different things that transcend pop culture. But the other side of that is a lot of people they're so inundated with pop culture that they'll go to a show that has pop culture elements or my pop culture lexicon. They'll look at it and they'll go, oh, it's a pop culture show. But then there's underlying things that's being communicated because it is a contemporary language right now. Everybody's
for sure
into it. And recently I've been like back into collecting comics too.
Yes, I noticed that on your Instagram.
Yeah, I've been posting them and getting excited about that. And
that's awesome. And, getting them graded.
Yeah. And just kind of having fun with that whole thing.
Right.
It's like kind of I've always collected and loved comics. It's one of my, you know, I'd say comic books and Dungeons and Dragons and like Star Wars are like my three.
Your three.
The three things, you know. Star Wars, when I saw the first one, you know, in the theaters.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And when I came home from seeing Star Wars with my father, I was like, that's it. I started drawing the next day because
awesome.
Star Wars stopped when, you know, it stopped.
Right.
It didn't continue. I didn't have 400 cartoons available to me. On the internet. I didn't have expanded novels. I didn't have graphic novels. When it was over, it was over. So for a lot of children, you picked up the pen and pencil and you continued Star Wars on your own.
Right.
And that's kind of why I started doing art. Then I started buying comics and going, oh, well, these are literally using drawings to continue and tell stories, serialized stories and this and that.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with that. And then the whole concept of world building like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff was obviously very attractive too. All of which I just wanted to draw and draw and draw.
Right. That's cool.
Then I got old and stupid and pretentious for a while. You know?
Happens. Nice. That's cool. I mean, there's even a hint of how deep it goes with you because you'll see, at least for me, like I was never huge into comics. Like I had a certain couple like X-Men and Spider-Man. Those were like the two, but even then, like,
Still my two favorite, I think.
And even then there's sometimes where I'll see a group of Spider-Man characters and I'll be a little fuzzy on one of the characters. I'm like, I can name them all except for which one is that? And I'm assuming it's just your rabbit hole goes deeper than mine. So, characters that are more obscure to me or something. And it seems like that's a repetitive thing where I'm like,
when you're into anything like that, you just kind of get
for sure.
into it.
Yeah. Just becomes your world. It's weird. But it's what we do as artists. I also realized when we were talking wood stuff that a lot of people might be confused listening to this because we're artist-based people. So we're like, oh yeah, routers and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar that people are with those tools in general. I'm sure we've got some handy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I do. I've had studio visits and stuff and like interviews in my home.
Yeah.
And it's, a lot of that entails taking people out to the wood studio, and then they kind of get a concept of like, oh yeah, when I'm doing some of these dioramas or my sculptural pieces, they go, oh okay, yeah, you need a lot of tools go into making things like that. Then you got the painting studio and all that. So you got markers and paints and pens and all kinds of drawing and painting mediums. So it's like art's such a, depending on what you do, it's just so involved with so much crap. You got so much, you have to use so many tools and stuff. And I switch my gears so much with my work that it's like, I have a lot of supplies and tools.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just went to the flea market this morning and bought 3 random things that I probably don't need, but I'm like, I can use these. I don't know if you're familiar with like a spoke shave. It's kind of like a plane. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I don't need to use planers too often. So I don't even know I don't think I have a planer at this point because I just have never really needed one.
Huh, that's interesting.
A lot of my friends who make like furniture and boats and stuff use planers a lot. And
that's kind of what I use. When I play around with wood, I'm trying to teach myself that stuff. Like it's barely art related. Make my wood frames, my wood panels, but other than that, I just want to learn how to make things that are not art related. It's like a hobby away from my obsession of art. I don't know.
Yeah, my skills using the tools have definitely come in handy when I've, made and fixed things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But primarily, when I'm in that wood studio, I'm prepping work and stuff.
That's cool. I would love to see that.
Yeah, you guys are welcome any time.
Yeah, I might just knock on that door.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. You were telling us earlier that you are pretty obsessed with jazz music.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with all kinds of music, but that was like, when a youngster in high school and stuff, especially, those junior high school, starts having so much of their self-identity kind of wrapped up in the cultures that they're really involved with.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so you remarked that, were you in punk? Because I don't, straight edge.
Right.
I don't drink or do anything. So and I'm like, no, not really. It's just, but that's kind of common, especially with those young people. They get involved with that. But when I was in junior high and high school, I was very, I guess I was very fascinated with ability, and then when I saw on PBS, something like that, we didn't have cable in our home, even though cable did exist back then, no internet existed back then, but, I'd see performances of these just superhuman musicians. And I was like, wow, it's not rock and roll. It's not, it's kind of old. Is that a good or bad thing? I didn't really question that too much.
Right.
But just recognizing that elite virtuosity that jazz musicians need to kind of relate and respond and communicate with each other.
Yeah, there's some magicians.
Oh, they're just,
I have no like very surface level knowledge of jazz, like just like the all-star Miles Davis and
Oh yeah, my son Miles is named after Miles
that's
Davis.
cool. And like Dizzy Gillespie and like those guys,
Dizzy,
and Buddy Rich, and like there's just like I feel like I know like
and there's so many people that are not household names that are just on that level,
right?
But it's like we're talking about comic books and skateboarding and all cultures, all the culture stuff that you get into, the lifestyle stuff. Then you got to just kind of indulge and start exploring it.
For sure. Yeah, that's cool. A lot of it is like very American culture as well. Like skateboarding is a
very American
very
culture.
American.
Jazz is an American
creation.
An American creation. Comic books are an American creation.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm a true American.
USA. Yeah, that's cool. Nice. What else do you? I mean, I'm assuming. I don't know. I was going to make a bad joke, but I'll just hold off on that. I was going to go political with it, but we don't. I hate that kind of.
I don't. Yeah, I don't do political work.
Yeah.
Art wise, I'm tempted to a lot. Especially in it's seeing
current
how just
atmosphere,
utterly ridiculous and surreal it is.
Yeah,
and it's almost like just indulging in artistically rendering a surreal reality.
Right.
But I'm just like, I'm not really like interested in being overtly political, especially artistically. And I think right now it's just like a no-brainer. It's just like, people are up in arms and stuff, and I'm appalled by this presidency and the leadership right now. It's something I don't want to obsess on something I'm already disgusted by.
Right. Yeah. For
using my creative energy and doing that.
Yeah.
People do it and they do it effectively and they communicate, their feelings about this. I'm very discontent. I'm just like very miserable and unhappy with this Trump bullshit.
Right.
And I just don't want to put my energy into even fighting or rallying against that.
For sure.
But that's just me. I'm glad people are. And sometimes when I see some provocative work, I'm like, hell yeah, But I won't use not for me though.
For sure. I'm 100% the same way. I can't allow my artwork to be like almost affected by it. It's like I enjoy creating. To go that route would just like ruin the enjoyment aspect of it for me, because it's like, it's especially in this current environment, it would just be brutal.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I want to, when I'm making statements or, something like that, I want to have a way to connect something that I'm interested in to that statement.
For sure.
I'm not interested in the Trump administration right now.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested, but I am interested in a lot of, I am interested in the cause and effect that it has in society, and I'll interact with it on those levels.
Okay.
That's interesting.
But there are concepts that, are longer than a presidency that I've been known to, to indulge in with my work, but it's longer than a 4 to 8 year term. It's an ongoing issue.
I see.
So yeah, like, I did a show in 88, Gallery 1988 in LA. It's a solo show. When was it? I don't even know, last year.
Okay.
And it's called Knife to a Gunfight. And it was, on the surface, I really wanted to appeal to the kind of the pop culture thing that the 1988 is known for.
Yeah.
And be respectful of that gallery is
aesthetic.
Yeah, it's aesthetic and its agenda.
Right.
But I also kind of had an idea that, we were talking about they were talking about the Vegas shootings and all kinds of the law enforcement brutality and
right. Peak of like,
yeah, absolutely. It's been an ongoing sort of thing.
Right.
And it's reviled and people are rightfully, kind of rallying against,
right.
These weapons and these uses of weapons and how they're being used by both law enforcement, people who have bad intention. And I was like, there's irony and hypocrisy in this, in a way that people kind of aren't seeing. Not that they're like super guilty, because I'm guilty. We're all guilty of it. But I was like, if I just do a series of guns,
Huh.
And then and my guns are the aliens rifle, pulse rifle. My gun is Han Solo's rifle, phaser.
Right.
You know
Culture
that's
guns.
pop culture.
Yeah.
You see something like Han Solo's blaster, and you think it's so identifiable, so iconic, it's such a part of the pop culture, lexicon. You look at it, you identify it. You see a hero, you see a guy, you have a personality, a character. For me, it's just like at the end of the day, it's just a tool to take a life,
Right.
But it's romanticized, and it's re-identified as something that is that character.
Yeah.
Right.
And we make these separations, when we see these swords, these knives, these guns, when they're being held and wielded by our heroes and our and the things that we're fans of, but then you don't take that association and apply it to, Las Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you have a totally different kind of an emotional stance on weaponry. And so when people went to the show, and it was very expansive, and I covered a lot of ground, and I had a lot of fun doing it. That's why I didn't really mind indulging in making an attempt at that statement, the hypocrisy of how we identify weaponry and when we like a gun and when we don't like a gun.
Right.
So it's this, you could be at a protest, just like holding a sign, just, disarm officers, disarm officers, but you still have that ticket to Han Solo, in your back pocket. So it's just weird. And it's just like, it's nothing to just like, I'm not pointing fingers calling you hypocrite, but it's something to be kind of aware of.
Right.
But so many people walk in the show and you just see things, and then at the face value, it's just the pop culture show.
Right.
It's like, oh, you just did weaponry. It's like, but in mass and all this other stuff. But a lot of times you should attach a statement to a concept like that. I don't do that all the time.
Okay.
Some people do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. When you have a show like that, where you have a serious theme like that, but your work is very sort of whimsical, like, do you like to have something that points people in the direction like this is actually what I'm trying to say with this, or do you just let it be what you want or what people interpret it as?
See, with that one, I did draft something up to say, hey, listen, I'm really trying to do something. But then I thought, like organically people they have their kind of association with this stuff anyway. So why not just continue that concept? Have somebody walk in that show. If they walk in there and go, holy smokes, this is kind of crazy. Or isn't it strange that this is within a couple months of the Vegas shootings or insensitive or whatever, and have them kind of generate sort of their own opinion or miss the point entirely. To me, I was just like, I don't know if the point is important anymore. And if my intent is one thing and somebody walks in there, if they're told what to look at or if they read something and then they reevaluate it that way, that's great.
Right.
I like that sometimes when I see that. But I also kind of like the fact that people could go in there and just see it for what it was. Like, oh, I love Thundercats, reminds me of it. I love Star Wars. And then if that's the relationship they want to have with the show, then that's fine. And then it doesn't matter to them whether or not I came in there with an agenda,
Yeah. Yeah. I think in general, if you create art with a concept or narrative behind it, rarely will that concept or narrative be so obvious to a person, unless it's very obvious, I guess. But I think you just, as an artist, it's like, for me, I use that as a tool to create. I have this overall concept or narrative I'm gonna obsess over for a while, and it allows me to create this body of work and be in that mindset and think about these things. And then when I put it on a wall, I allow other people to then look at the art, and maybe they'll get something that's close or spot on to what I'm trying to say, or maybe not, but I have to let them figure that out or get what they will from the artwork.
Well, sometimes I think that it's nice to spell it out, and I didn't, but you have to have that. I think if you're going to really spell it out or really kind of deliver the concept, people have various talents in that part, the rhetoric or the, being eloquent about like, this is what I'm doing exactly. And I remember with I did a 2-person show with Alex Pardee
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, just the both of us, and it was a wonderful show, one of my favorites.
Nice.
And it is a considerable amount of work because Gallery 1988.
It's like
it's two
rooms.
64-foot long walls for their main gallery.
Oh,
so it's like,
Oh, damn.
so it's just like, it's more gallery space on one wall than some of the smaller galleries in San Francisco are,
sure.
all 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very abstract when you're working on a show. And I remember going into that when, Alex and I were talking about doing the show, and we're like, I said, what do we want to do? And Alex is just like, are you guys familiar with Alex Pardee?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's your t-shirt, right?
Oh yeah. I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Alex has given me half my wardrobe. So yeah, it's like a marketing technique on his part. Hey,
For
have a
sure.
shirt. It's like, hey, I'll wear this every other day, and people ask me about it, and then we'll grow your empire, which I'm happy to do because I absolutely love Alex.
That's awesome.
But when we were discussing this show, we were we know what Gallery 1988 was, and he had already done shows with them and worked with them, and we wanted to do something really special.
Right.
We wanted to do something that kind of appealed to, again, their agenda, their theme.
Mm-hmm.
But Alex, I learned so much with that show, with how somebody can be such a narrative storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit more non-sequential, quasi-narrative, but man, to co-work on a show with somebody with like who's as talented a writer, and a story, a raconteur or storyteller, somebody like Alex Pardee is like, it was crazy because he's like, oh, let's make it a pop culture thing, but it's nothing that has existed. It doesn't exist, but when people kind of indulge in it, it will feel like it'll have all the tropes and the familiarity, but be completely original, our concept. And he had like,
that's awesome.
He goes, you could take this part, and we really got organized. So I had the team, the characters, the equipment, and then worked with kind of an episodal sort of like perception of the creatures, the worlds, and this implied narrative. Him and I discussed kind of the characters and the backgrounds and this and that, and then he wrote this wonderful timeline and the origin story. So when you went into gallery, we just did all this stuff where you read this whole thing, and this is an example of one of those shows where you got this sort of like background right in. You read, there's a timeline on it. We painted out and drew timelines that told this point. Then boom, it went into the various alien worlds and basically they're Ghostbusters in space. And then, so Alex just went into Alex mode and just developed beautiful creatures and worldscapes. Yeah. And then I went into all the technical stuff, like the equipment, the ship and stuff. I did this like 800-hour massive piece with pieces within pieces and this team and stuff. And it was a great show, but it started with that narrative. It started with the story, the timeline. So by the time you were going into the artwork, you're like, oh, okay, wow, this is really fleshed out. This is really an adventure, and then, then Greg Aranowitz, it's a good friend of ours, is like, does special effects for a lot of movies and stuff. He did this beautiful sculpture for the show. Like right when you walk in, it was just like this, you guys should pull that up. I mean, it's just astronaut show. Just pull it up. You'll see this sculpture. It's like, it's like unbelievable.
What's the show called?
It's Astral, like the astral plane, and then nauts, like astronauts, but not astro. ASTRAL, NAUTS. In that one word.
Is it one word?
Yeah. And so that's a.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. Astronauts. ASTRALNAUTS.
Here, you want to type this out, Sergio? I can't see that right now.
But
weird angle too.
I know.
And it's great podcast when people, hopefully they're mistyping along.
Yeah, exactly. Astronauts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's some stuff, and then there's like a video, but you could just go to images.
Okay.
I would just click on that, and then hopefully somebody didn't hijack our idea, and yeah, that's all that stuff. So
Okay, yeah.
it's got the ship and stuff, but yeah. Yeah, and then you can look for like the giant sculpture and stuff, man. But yeah, it was a big concept thing, and we put it together in 3 months.
Freezing. Is that the spaceship there?
Yeah, that guy down there. Yeah,
I saw that. You guys are like holding that in a picture, right?
Yeah, we were when we were pitching it. We went to a lot of.
It's pretty big.
We went to a lot of we went to Amazon, Comedy Central, and stuff like that. We were working.
That's cool.
Working with it. Yeah, there you go. It's up there.
So is it that thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow,
unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Greg Aranowitz is a genius.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, we are kind of doing something else with it, trying to see if we could get a TV show or.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, you guys put all this work into a show. It would be kind of a missed opportunity not to do something further with it once the show is over. So yeah, it's cool to hear that you guys have more ideas to go with it.
Yeah, we were.
This was last year, you said?
No, this is a couple years ago. But last year we started kind of running around and talking to people. We got a production studio in LA.
Okay. Yeah.
That was interested in, taking us to places like Amazon.
Oh, nice.
Comedy Central. And,
yeah.
Vimeo and all these places. And
all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I hope something comes out of that.
Yeah. It's so like just that whole experience. It's like every little thing that's come out of it has been like it could just die right now. And I've gotten more than I've ever expected out of it.
Yeah, that's a good amount especially for like a show.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly. Especially a show that was really done in 4 months' time on my end of things and 3 months on Alex's, because he had a move that he was, he had a move from one house in Florida to another house in Florida at the time. That was sort of a sudden sort of thing. And then I was in California. Yeah, I went to Florida for a while when we were kind of talking about getting the show together, and just stayed with him and Chloe out there for a while, and while we were kind of conceptualizing the show. But we made the show on opposite ends of and then we made everything having to do with that show in 3 months on his time, 1 month on my time, and that was like, that's when I just saw what a genius that dude is, like as far as putting narrative together, promotion together, and just being behind the A-ball, in the sense that the guy has to move and do all this other stuff in the entire studio, but way ahead of the game as far as just being able to just anticipate what's coming down the line and putting together like this fully immersive sort of thing. And you saw him in the makeup. We had that guy Sig Neutron, who was on the Face Off. He came through and Sig did all of Alex's makeup. I'm allergic to latex. There he is. Yeah, in the blue.
This one here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, and then so we had people, and then we had people walking around being monsters. And then we had this awesome pin, like a blind bag pin thing, and I designed all the pins, and you could yesterday's made our pins and monitored this like thing where you could buy capsules and see what pin you get.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
awesome.
The
opening was a total. It was so much fun. It was just like, I was just so happy. It's a huge turnout, and just one of those shows that was just like just became kind of a space party,
Yeah.
Awesome. A weird, like a weird cosplay space party with a ton of art and people. And
nice. That's crazy that you did it all in 4 months.
Yeah, that's super impressive.
Yeah, it was like, but that's what had to happen, being circumstances being what they were. So
right, exactly.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a huge learning experience.
So a lot of sleepless nights there.
I don't sleep that much anyway.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah,
that's tough. I mean,
no, it's all right. I'm pretty wired for 3 to 4 a night.
Oh, are you? Oh,
yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I wish I was kind of that way. I get like 4-5 hours of sleep, sometimes 6 a day, but it is miserable for me. Like the next day, on average, that's what I get, and it's my body can't function on that.
Yeah, it gets brutal with that show and a few of the other shows after that one. they just took on so much that it felt like I was taking naps between days. And you know,
that's brutal.
If 2 hours is a nap, then that's a nap. But I like 3, 4, 5, you know, and that's like, and I could survive on that more towards the 5,
right.
You know, but I seem to get about 4 and 5 mostly.
There's like a small percentage of the world that can survive off that. So you must be one of the lucky ones.
I don't know. It's like I think it's a condition. I think anybody can do it. It's just sort of a conditioning thing, you know?
That's crazy.
I think, I don't know.
You might just, cause I've been sleeping for like 6 hours, a night for years. And it's always been like miserable. Every time I get lucky and get 7, I'm like, whew, I'm alive now. Like I'm recharged. It's weird. And it has to be like a couple nights in a row where I do that. So I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah. Recently I went through a bout of being tired right at 11 p.m. I'd look at the clock and I was within a couple minutes of 11 every time and my eyes were super heavy. And it was like fighting through it too. And then I like 12:30, I'd break through and then I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm fine. It's very strange. It's like all of like August, you know, and early September is like 4 weeks of just like, I'd be watching the clock going, it's 10:45. I feel okay. And then 11 would hit and I'm like, there's some like kind of like psychosomatic thing going on or, you know, or I have like timed allergies or I don't know what was going on.
I don't know if the fires are going on at that time. That might have affected.
Yeah, I think the fires might have been part of the problem.
That's interesting. One thing I would say about your work, which is probably a first for us, is that you win the award for the most self portraits of an artist.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know you came out with like a group of work where you were the character that was inside the costume of the character you were painting or whatever.
Oh, that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I made a paper doll concept.
Yeah.
I guess Spoke's bringing some books out to some new works out to London.
Yeah. I'm in that show too.
Yeah. So Ken had, you know, he'd asked me if I want to do one, so I said, yeah, I'll do one. And I just thought, what did I want to do with the last one that I didn't do? And it was the paper doll thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, it's fun, you know, that was fun to see myself in the different kind of costumes and stuff like that.
For sure.
And I could go, again, it's just like one of those endless things. I could just go on and on and on. So I just had to throw the brakes on it.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Was that some form of you living out like a fantasy or something of you being a superhero or anything like that?
Well, it had a mix of reality and fantasy. It had, because some of the paper cut, you know, costumes you could put on the figure, because that was the, you know, you had the central figure,
right,
in a beater, boxers, and socks,
right?
You know, ready to go out into the world. It had all my stupid tattoos and shit too. So, but like, yeah, well, I had like my Kangol that I wear in real life, and you know, shit like fishbone shirts and Jordans and shit, you know, and jeans, and you know, so I had that thing going, and then I thought, yeah, man. Then I had a park ranger uniform, you know, because I'm a park ranger officer.
Oh, that's
you
cool.
are.
So I thought, like, cool, you know, put on my, you know, I spend 40 hours a week in that.
That's awesome.
You know,
how you enjoy that?
No idea.
Oh, I love it. It's like,
that sounds like a dream job.
So
yeah, that's what I have. 2 dream jobs. Unfortunately, I live 2 days, you know, like 2 days in one though. Unfortunately, like most, if I do 8-hour days.
Who do you work for? Like the regional parks?
I work for the city of Fremont.
Okay.
So, so it's a very different job than the regional parks and a lot of those kind of park ranger jobs. We're PCA 32 officers. We're peace officers. We don't do trail maintenance and stuff like that.
Okay.
We do with, you know, people.
I see.
So it's a primarily it's a first responder / law enforcement, and that's the order that I do it.
Right.
And it's nice. I'm the senior officer. I've been there the longest.
Wow.
So when I'm the field training officer. So when I'm bringing in new personnel, I emphasize, you know, we're here, at this big, huge main central park in Fremont, and also the 51 satellite parks. It's such a park-rich city. It's insane.
Wow, I had no idea there were that many parks there.
I say we're here if somebody in need. So we're first responders, and we all have our first response training and stuff.
That's awesome.
To do, we had an officer do CPR 2 weeks ago and save the dude's life, and stuff like that comes up a lot. And then the law enforcement is an education thing, more like, let's be aware of other people, keep the ticket book in the truck,
right?
Have a conversation and realize that you are the authority in the park, but you're not an officer. You're not a cop. You have more time and you don't have the same priority call thing.
I see.
So when you're wearing that Ranger uniform, get out there and just be firm, draw a line. You don't want other people impacted by other people's behavior.
Right, for sure.
But, don't be punitive. Don't be a jerk. Get out there, and 99% of the time, no matter how put off people are, they shake my hand and go, man, that's what a great experience. I thought, I saw the badge and I thought, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's I never want that. I want to kind of reform that, at least in our position as park rangers, So it's a heavy gig though, man.
I bet.
It's an intense, it could be an intense job.
That's cool. I mean, that's interesting. I didn't know that at all. But that's cool. Two dream jobs. Yeah. I work a 40-hour, but it's very the opposite. It's a job that I hate, but it pays my bills.
Yeah, I love my 40.
That's
I love
great.
it. I have a lot of passion, and I've got to do things as a park ranger that I've never dreamt I'd be able to do. Being part of a municipality, bureaucracy like that, it could be extremely frustrating. But I did use my position there to build a skate park in Fremont.
Oh, okay.
And and I threw in a lot of, my own time, hours, blood, sweat.
That's cool.
And tears, lots of tears. But we built it, and I got to do stuff like, kind of revamp and reform the park ranger program as some of the older officers leave, to just kind of have a new presence and a new sort of set of responsibilities. So it's like, it's super rewarding. It's a great, if I'm working on a show, when I get to work, it's a great way to just kind of cash out of that, refresh, reset. I come home and I'm ready to rock. It's like my mind wasn't just ruminating over what am I going to draw and paint?
Right.
And I think it's really just helped my creativity a ton. It's just the time, it's like, how much time do you have in 7 days,
Right.
Yeah,
for sure. I 100% understand that struggle.
But I'm an 8 for 8. That's what I've started to call it the last couple of years. If my 8-hour day at work is met that same day with 8 hours in the studio, at least.
Damn.
And then I will do 8 to 10s on my days off for art. So at the end of the week, I do more art. One of the things I've been able to do is off season, if I am able to sketch, conceptualize, and have those creative flashes at work, it's great. I could act on it.
Right.
I'm not I'm not disregarding my responsibility, nothing like that, but I actually have a moment and I can act on it at work, and I could get some doodles and some framework done for stuff that makes my job when I get home easier.
Yeah.
Right.
But it strikes me like lightning when I'm at work though, because that's not really where my mindset is. So I'll be driving the truck around, I'll be talking to somebody else. It's like, hey, whatever, this, that, and the other. And then I'll just start pulling away and it'll be like zap. And I'll go, oh shit, I gotta write this, draw this. And then I have this iPad now, this iPad Pro, and it's been super cool. I've actually posted on my Instagram a couple of the images, that I do with I try not to do that on my feed, the digital stuff.
Oh, really?
Most of my, I try to keep my feed
stories?
mostly all real, artwork. But lately I've dropped a couple, and I have a digital Rat136 Instagram that's got like no followers. So like those sets of me, I was deciding which one I wanted.
Oh, this one here
for the
God, mine.
Yeah, that one. I was deciding which outfit to use for the book.
Okay.
And then the other ones are the designs I did put in as paper cuts, you know. But like I could do those at work, you know. I could sit down and just draw those at work. You know? If I'm not doing something else, because when I put on the park ranger hat, I'm literally I'm 100% full bore.
Right.
But you do have downtime once in a while and this and that. So
yeah. One of the images that you created that I really liked was like the Rocky. Was like Rocky 4 or something. The one against the Russian, and then the frame is like two gloves punching each other.
Yeah,
that one was so cool.
There's one of Miles's pieces.
Oh yeah, that's your son.
Yeah, that's Miles's. Miles and I are doing some Dungeons and Dragons stuff, some licensed. I'm working with Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, you are. Oh, wow.
Which is really rad. And so we've had a start stop a couple times with this show this year. But ultimately, it is going to all get done. Yeah, there's some of my D&D stuff. And
that's what that is. I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, that stuff is all for this D&D project. But
so yeah, you and your son also creates. He also works in wood.
He does, yes.
And he does like this layering of wood to make like this sculpture, which is cool because you can see that you've definitely influenced him as an artist. Was he always a creative?
He was from the get-go. But you know, he would draw passionately and very stylized, you know, as you know, there he is. Miles and I at our show. So yeah, so he was always into that. But, you know, the thing that really kickstarted him is that he just got so interested and involved with the stuff that, like pop culture stuff, like Star Wars, when I said, hey, check this out.
Oh, okay.
You know, and if you like that, you'll like this. And then it was just a chain reaction of just like things that he was just passionate about, interested in. And then, and I think a huge influence on Miles outside of, you know, Miles and I, you know, working together and sort of doing art and him seeing me do art is Miles has such good friends like Alex Pardee, Dave Correa, Skinner, Jon Wayshak and him are like besties.
Are they?
I mean, since Miles was young, we just go, he'd go over to John's place and we'd pick him up like 2 days later, you know, and those guys, you know, John's just killing it. Doing his art, and Miles is there and they're playing video games, talking shit, eating horrific foods, you know, but and to this day, you know, those two are just like, you know, if they're together in anywhere, they are just magnets and they're just talking shit or doing whatever it is. But
that's amazing.
I think and Skinner's been such a great friend of his, and you know, over the, you know, he's such a great friend of our family, as well as, you know, Dave and Alex. They've all had such a huge influence on him also.
That's awesome.
So people go, oh, you've had such a huge influence on Miles and this and that. And I go, I was part of it, but, you know,
you're just there to introduce him to all the right stuff, I guess.
Well, even that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and introduce him to a lot of people, you know?
Yeah.
And, there's that Rocky one.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love these like slouch characters. Was there some was there some idea behind that really like took over for a while? Because I noticed that it ran like these people that are just like, they look like melancholy or something. It's a like very simple character, but just the posture of them is so like it's all these like iconic heroes and things that are all like sad looking, which I thought was interesting because I mean it makes you think about these characters in a different mindset, like almost like you're saying like, oh, I wonder if Rocky ever was sad, or I wonder if you know, like whoever the character is, Ninja Turtles or Bubba Fett or whatever. Like did they ever have a day off where they were just like, oh, today just sucks?
Yeah, that concept was. I came out of the Knife to Gunfight show. It was a lot of pop culture stuff, then previous to that, I had a solo show that same year in Portland, the Upper Playground, Portland, and that show was not pop culture per se. It had some elements, but a lot of it was just just me, doing other concepts. But it seems like I was getting in a lot of group shows, and I kind of committed myself to some pop culture stuff with a knife to gunfight, which was a very, arduous task to just fill that entire gallery. I mean, I remember doing just the one wall with Alex previous to that, and then Alex had the other wall, and just going, holy smokes, this is so much wall space.
Right.
And all, my work tends to be smaller, and it even still takes so long that, it was just such a task. And after a knife to a gunfight, I had a solo show booked with Spoke that following January. And I was like, oh man, I'm just like, I'm ready to go. Let's see what we can do. And I met with Ken, and I was just like, he's like, how you doing, man? And I'm like, he's all, yeah, it looks like you're busy. It's like, yeah. It's insane. Cause I was like, oh man, I just wrapped up my second solo show, and I had like 18 group shows or something like that. I think that's like the accurate number. Peppered in that whole workload and the full-time job. And in summer, it's really ramped up for me as an officer because it's such high usage.
Right.
So I was going through all that stuff and going through the summer building the knife to gunfight show and doing a couple shows. I mean, I was just like, holy smokes, dude. This is a lot. And so we discussed turning the solo show into a 2-person show. And I was just like, I'm really open for that. I'm super stoked. So Ken was just like, I got an artist in mind. I'm like, cool, man. And I'm thinking like, it's Spoke Arts, Ken. I love Ken. I love Spoke Art. I love the relationship I've had with Ken for a while now. And I just think he's great, and the staff is great. The galleries are great. And the artists he represents are absolutely phenomenal. So I was like, you have somebody in mind? If you have somebody in mind, I'm absolutely giddy to hear, because everybody, and I respect everybody you work with. I can't wait to hear who who you're going to suggest. And he goes, Miles. And I'm like, all right, cool. Who's this Miles guy? I'm like, okay, so who, like my brain literally went click, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to go through all these, artists that you represent, and, and I'm like, oh, which one's this Miles guy? And I'm like, and he's kind of looking at me like, I'm like, oh shit, you mean my son? He's just like, yeah. And I said, you think he's ready for this? And Ken was like, yeah, man, let's do it. It'll be very cool. So the concept for my slumps is kind of what I dubbed them, was that, okay, I want to do some non-pop culture thing for a while. But when I was looking at my son, I'm like, man, this kid's 19. At the time, I'm like, what's his passion? What's his comfort zone? How is he going to generate enough work to go, do a show from October to January and generate enough content, strong, something that he could really get behind? Well, that's his passion. It's the pop culture. So for me, I went, okay, fine.
Right.
Let me go down but let me express pop culture from my perspective right now. As much as I'm in love with it, I'm exhausted. Right. Not only that, the oversaturation of these characters are exhausted. Their presence in society, whether it's Rick and Morty, which is just got to be under the exhaustion of scrutiny by these fans and all this sort of, this hoopla around, everything from sauces to whether or not they're going to have another season, and the pressure must weigh down on that franchise, to the Avengers, to DC, to everything just seems to be put through the ringer so hardcore. And this is all the stuff that I loved as a youth. And I said, let's contrast that with something that's proud, sharp, well put together, like Miles is going to do. And look at a 19-year-old super pop culture fan. Look at a nearly 50-year-old super pop culture fan. You know what I mean? And then you just see, I love it, but goddamn, dude, this is like, this is exhausting. And these franchises, I think, feel exhausted in the whole thing. And then I said, not only that, it's just like, I saw Fantastic Beasts, then I saw, this, Avengers in the theater. Then I saw this on TV, and then, Daredevil on TV. And I'm like, I can't even keep, it's like, did that happen in the Fantastic Beasts or the Adventures or Lord of the Rings? I don't fucking remember. So for me, I said, okay, it's got to be repetitive. It's got to be stripped down and deconstructed design-wise, so everybody's just a degree away in look, because that's kind of how I'm seeing pop culture now. It's like, all right, it's the Hulk, it's Superman. It's like, but it's all deconstructed to the point where it's like, let's design them and have that just like exhausting repetition. So I designed the show, my side of the show, to have this slump, this posture, but no faces, stripped down details, deconstructed design ad nauseum over and over and over. And it's really, if you got behind my eyeballs and into my brain and saw this, you'd say, because I can't generate this. Like my son is just like, you know, that movie was amazing, you know, or that movie sucked, you know, I hate it, you know, like it's just like, dude, how you really hate, you know, that movie, you know, you hate Han Solo. It's like, hate Trump, dude. Don't, you know, like, which he does, you know, it's just like hate such an energy, you know, absorbing energy, you know, sucking thing. It's just like, but he has a passion though. So it's just like, and you can't stop that train. You just let the kid, you know, and we all have fun at his expense when he's really, you know, overzealous and passionate and this and that, you know, and he loves Spider-Man, he loves this and that, but he hates this and that, but he loves this character, but hates how it was treated. And he has talks with his friends about it. And and I remember being there and I love it. So his work really reflects that honoring. And I mean, they're busts, they're relief sculptures, they're heroic. It's almost classical in their presentation.
For sure,
and then dad comes in there all salty and shit, you know, it's just like, you know, and it's just like, you know, move aside, son. I'm the one who showed you this shit, you know, it's just like, but it was interesting because there were some articles written about the show and articles were very favorable, very nice, and they got the concept. They kind of saw where I was coming from. And my son was reading the comments and stuff, and a lot of positive stuff. But he really got upset when people were critical of the They didn't get why I was so repetitive, why it was deconstructed like that. That's fine. And I was like, I don't care. You know, this show did exceptionally well. Yeah. It had a great turnout. I mean, it was big line to get in the gallery all night. It's like huge turnout, huge sales. It was fine. People liked it. People put their money where their mouth was. They bought it. We gave away a lot of stickers. We had a lot of pin releases, and those seemed to be really popular too. So I said, you know, it's fun. I got to do this. This is maybe my favorite show ever. Content wise, maybe not. I like it. I love what I did with my part of the show. But to do this, to have a show at my favorite gallery, probably, I'd say Spoke's probably my favorite gallery, with my son. And you know, to have the hype leading into it, we had a nice article in Jux and stuff, and it was just to have that whole experience with my son.
Yeah, for sure. It's got to be a life experience.
Oh yeah, it was like, and that was January this year. You know, so it was just like, it just was just like a really great experience. And it was just funny how up in arms he was when some people were like going, I don't understand, or I don't like the fact that he did. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to focus on the negative. That's one of the dark things about the internet. It's like you can get a million compliments in the first time someone says something negative about your stuff. You're like, who the fuck is this guy? And what does he know? Let me see how he creates, or you know, like there's like this weird obsession you get with.
That's just being human.
Yeah,
you know?
It is. You can,
it's. I totally understand that. I mean, I don't even know if that's an age thing, because I've definitely been where like a negative comment's like, what do you? Yeah,
I think it affected me a lot more when I was young. This rolled off my back really easy, and you know, I was just like, you know what? The heads up you gave me is just like, I'm just not going to read the comments. She's like, no, there's so many good ones. You should see it. People love it. And I'm like, you know what? Good or bad, you know, I'm glad that it got covered like this. I'm glad it's causing a reaction. And actually, the more potent might be the people who are provoked by this or misunderstood this. If they misunderstood it and felt compelled to just like get on their keyboard and talk about, you know, my slumped pop figures, and it generated that sort of, you know, response where they took a moment out of their day to have either a positive or negative reaction, then
it's true.
Then that's fantastic, you know. But you know, to see people come and enjoy the show, you know, and go through the things that they were familiar with and things that they loved and identify and gravitate towards things
Right.
Whether it was my work, Miles' work, the whole concept, that was super fun. It's super fun to be there, super fun to see that. And it's super, super, super fun to be there with my son.
That's awesome.
And I love the way he was that night too. For me as a father, it's like, I do my art, I do my rangering, I'm a husband, that's other stuff. We all have these roles. But as a father, that's to see this young man.
For sure.
He's my only one. And I'm looking at him and I'm listening to this guy talk. I'm seeing how he's treating people. I'm seeing how he's absorbing this experience, which is a lot for 19. I didn't get anything fucking close to anything like this at 19.
For sure.
I have people I know who've been working art who would love to have what he had at a show like that as professional art. I know professional artists who would love to have had that opportunity. I wanted to see kind of how he was going to sort of like respond to it. Is he going to, and I was that was my favorite part of the night. I told my wife at the end of the night, I go, man, to see just, how much fun he had, how giving he was with his time, just how focused he was on people who were asking him questions, just how honest and open and sweet that boy was with everybody. That was my favorite part of the whole show.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, you must be a horrible father then. I'm just kidding.
I was,
that's awesome. That's
firm.
Really great.
You're firm. Yeah.
No, I was very, I'm, I have so much going on.
Growing up, did he go to your shows at all?
Yeah. He went to all of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then, if our friends had shows, he'd go to them too. And it's an exciting thing for him, and Alex did Vertigo at Corey Helford, we packed him in a car and took him on an LA trip, So it was to go support our friend.
For sure.
To go indulge in a show that was epic and beautiful, which he got to absorb. But it was a Disneyland trip for him and my wife too. So it's just like, we love to go to, shows, support our friends,
right? For sure.
Expose them to the culture, and then make the trip into kind of a family kind of opportunity also.
Yeah. That ends up being a lot of artists, I think. You make a working situation into a mini vacation.
That is, my favorite vacations have been with my art friends, like Wayshak and Dave and Alex Skinner and those guys. I mean, some of my favorite trips, we had a show in New York, and we were all there. It was New York Comic Con, but it was, Dave and Wayshak, myself. Skinner was there. Robert Bone was there. And we had this awesome show at Tara's place, Cotton Candy Machine. And it was awesome. The show was awesome. The New York Comic Con was awesome. Banksy was out there. That he did his residency in that October. So we're his shit was popping up here and there. The weather was perfect. It was New York. We were there for many days. My wife was out there. We were going to we did everything. We did it all together. But it was to go out there to do a show, but it ended up being so much, so much more, And then it was also the staff that worked with the Zero Friends at the time too, who are also great friends of ours. So, I mean, I felt like everywhere I turned, I knew I had a great friend there, and we were doing an art show. We were doing Comic-Con, and we were just having a vacation in New York too. It was amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
Most of my favorite vacations have been these art trips.
Yeah. Yeah, mine usually are, I can't wait to get away from Sergio. That's cool. Damn.
Does your wife do art at all? Or
she used to.
Oh, okay.
She's not. She's a preschool director and teacher. So
okay.
I think art is, especially that super early foundation art development. That's part of her life. Because art is such a huge part of her curriculum with these kids,
preschoolers. Yeah.
But she used to do
That's a tough job, by the way.
Little galleries here and there, and she used to do little festivals. And she did sculptural work, and it was beautiful. It's just a time thing and sort of a shift. So, but cool thing is I married somebody who can relate to the process,
right?
Who's done it, who's actually done it. So,
that's cool. Nice. Yeah. As far as like your stuff, I feel like the merchandising of it, like creating those like small things, is such a simple leap for you, I think. And I mean, we talked a little bit about how that must be good for people that can't get the original piece.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a big part of what you want to do?
Yeah, it's become a part of what I want to do. And again, it's just like a lot of this stuff is like, kind of evaluating and relearning things and the potential of making things.
Right.
And again, I look to models, and I see how like Dave and Alex do their merchandising and the kind of the crossover stuff. So it's just like having proximity to see people who are really, really able at that. It makes me go, let me dip my toes in this water, and try this. My whole perception of art, my work is price pointed well too. So I'm not an impossible guy to collect. It's not, and I do, and I feel like I can do a price point that's, reasonable. It's not giving anything away, but reasonable.
Right.
Because I have dual incomes. So for me, it's just like, that war of like, I think a lot of artists have with, I put X amount of time into this,
right,
but I need sustenance also. So where do we meet in the middle? It's just, I think we all start, and myself and all of my friends who do art, you look at things, go, what should I price this at? What should I price this at?
Right.
Tell me you guys haven't had that conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Where you're literally soliciting somebody else like, hey man, look at this. You didn't make it. You don't know how much, what do I price this at? So it's funny how like uncomfortable a lot of artists get about pricing their work.
Right.
For me, the pens are great. They sell super well. People really like them.
I'm sure, yeah.
And it's an easy thing to price. It's an easy thing to kind of move. You don't have any sort of particular feeling about it in a way that, you go, wow, did I ask too little for that? Usually is my case. It's like always, in my case, I could definitively say, yeah, I asked too little for that. But, but it moved and it's good for me. It's good for the gallery.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, I think that's where the marketing thing kind of comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. I always wonder because my wife, she's an artist as well. And she really enjoys those, like she's trying to dip her toes into things like that. And I'm not like, I'm not going that direction. Just cause me personally, it has nothing to do with me thinking negatively about it. I don't like that. Like I don't like when people give me like keychains. I've mentioned it before. Like I always like want to just throw it away.
Yeah.
And any like little trinket thing, but she's like obsessed with stuff like that. And people are obsessed with stuff like that.
There's a collector's mentality.
Yeah. And
if you don't have a collector's mentality, you won't gravitate towards wanting to amass things. I like pins. I have a lot of pins. I like comics. There's certain things I don't like. I don't like prints a lot. I just don't want prints.
Right.
I have so much insane original work, in my home.
Yeah.
That's just it's not, just mine, but I have so many original pieces from some amazing artists. It's like, I don't really have room for prints. I have nothing against prints or the print market or people who collect and display prints because that's such a great way to have a piece of that artist or have that beautiful image. It's just not my preferred thing.
Yeah.
Either. And also with some of the stuff that there's an expense and an energy and time put into like packaging and sending it out and you're fronting up, you got to front the money. Then you got to manage, like, especially if it starts really rolling, then you got to keep track of what you're making, what you're spending, this and that. And that becomes something that, guess what, you're not doing at the time, drawing, painting, stuff like that. So,
yeah, that's interesting. That's cool. Yeah, the only thing I collect is tools. That's like the one thing I'm always just like buying. But yeah, everything else is like, and artwork a little bit. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I had a follow-up question about that kind of stuff. I was trying to think about that as far as like, just products and, I don't know, the value of it, and just because it's so foreign to me, like because I don't like it's almost like I get prints, I get why people sell prints. Even then, I'm like, I've been hesitant for a while to do that. I just want to paint, but I'm probably going to go that direction soon with prints. But my wife, she's doing like the packaging thing now and
Yeah.
like playing around with these things. And I'm like, oh, it seems like such work for,
It is. It's a lot of work.
and yeah, but
It's a work and it's expense, and that's a thing. And one of the things that kind of, I wasn't really interested in that, initially either. I wanted to make work, original work.
I don't think
wanted
anybody ever really is.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to put my energy, and I didn't want, this and that, and I had perceptions of this and that. But, when you see people, go, yeah, I can't get the piece.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do enjoy this. And my work has slanted so graphic lately, it's just so, it is deconstructed.
Right.
It is so design heavy. It translates well.
Right.
So I could get behind it and go, okay, cool. This is sort of like what I'm doing, graphically speaking of the fine art that I'm doing. But like, as far as having a perception of, it's just changed so drastically. I used to not feel it, and then I just saw good model, like I said, people who are doing it well and doing it right. And I said, I got some good models. So now I'm kind of like, I still I can't do prints per se because everything I do has a dimensional element to it.
Right. I didn't think about
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't, unless it's like, I did a wallpaper at one point and
That's
that was
cool.
Oh,
straight
did you?
2D. Yeah. Is all, that was an absolutely insane undertaking to do everything for that. It's called the Bay Area Toile. And toile is a type of wallpaper pattern.
Oh, it is. Okay. Huh.
So it's like, I guess the Bay Area theme came out from New York. Mike D from the Beastie Boys did a Brooklyn toile, and it was a French country style, which is just like kind of more of a sort of shaping of things patterned.
Okay.
And so Mike, or the Lonely Island guys. Do you know who those dudes are?
Oh, yeah.
Andy Sandberg and his two writer partners.
Yeah. Jorma and Akiva. So they saw it, and so they were like, "Oh, we want to do this." And so through connections, Jorma and I started talking about doing this thing.
That's cool.
And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And it's a Lonely Island Matt Ritchie project, and we'll get this
Isn't
thing
Lonely
going.
Island? Aren't they from like Oakland or something like that?
That's why we did the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And then I did.
Sense.
And then I changed up my style. People are looking at these slumps. Then they see my Bay Area Toile and they go, "Holy shit, that's like a totally different artist did that shit."
Do you have it on the?
You could just you could go to Bay Area. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, the blue.
Oh, is that?
Oh,
Yeah. So it's just like, yeah, it was in this TV show in the background too.
Cool. And it's like
But like
the
it's
bridge and like architecture.
yeah, it's got the bridge and it's got
Mac
like
Dre.
Mac Dre, it's got Humpty, it's got Dennis Richmond,
Nice.
it's got Too Short, it's got it's Montana, Alice Waters, Angela Davis, is
awesome.
Children's Fairyland is in there. The
Delma.
Berkeley Tower, so the Oakland, the Oakland cranes, the famous
Oh, sure.
cranes.
Yeah.
And it's all done in this very Bart. You could see a corner of the Bart part, and it's all done filigree Victorian.
That's awesome.
And then,
Yeah, I love that.
so we released this paper, and it was like, it's just been crazy. That thing still has steam. It's still is just bonkers.
That's awesome.
People are still interested in it. It's still selling very well, and it's in restaurants and stuff. And I'm tagged all the time, and I never thought I would be in Bon Appetit magazine. Like what? I don't cook. I mean, I
Right.
so don't cook. I could fuck up a Pop-Tart. That's the last magazine I'd ever thought I'd have any sort of mention or feature in. And they were talking about some of the restaurants, and
That's awesome.
I did the Washington Post just posted as the number one of the 12 best wallpapers in the last like 10 years or something. It's
Really? Oh man.
yeah, it's just got this weird sort of reach, and I'm finding out about it like in weird. It's been on KTVU did a feature on it because it featured Dennis Richmond and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it's just been It was a weird project. Yeah. Well, and E40 contacted me. He thought I manufactured it. I said, "No, dude, I just drew it." And so, but I could get you some. And so we because it's made in New York. So,
okay. Yeah.
So we hit those guys up and you get the guy hooked up with some wallpaper.
That's awesome.
But it's interesting. I'm looking at one of the comments there. Somebody down in San Diego installed it in their office. That's pretty interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Wow, that's
crazy.
Nice. Should go back and read some of these comments. I'm like I told you guys before, I'm like my Instagram is so horribly curated, and I've just mismanaged it. I've probably missed out on tremendous opportunity with it, but
you probably missed out on a lot of spam too, though.
But it was on TV. I mean, it's better than being on Instagram, I think. And I didn't even have to do anything to do that. They found it and put it on their own, and I just said, "All right, cool."
Yeah, I mean, you seem like you have a good following. I mean,
I think it's more than the Instagram reflects. Thank goodness. Otherwise, I don't think I would, be having so many opportunities to get contacted so often to do so many insane. Things. And since there's so much different, since I work in so many different styles, it appeals to different people's, visions or needs.
For sure.
So, I mean, it could be like Santa Cruz skateboards, and then it could be like wallpaper. It could be like, it could be all kinds of different people, Dungeons and Dragons, which is right now my most frustrating passion project, because it's like a company I love so much, and it's been difficult to get it rolling. But now it's rolling now. It's absolutely rolling now. We got something where it's going to be something we could all be proud of. So, but stuff like that, it's the differences in being able to, do so many different styles. And I think that stems when I was like in college and stuff, like the way I was learning art and how I was like, and I think a lot of it had to do with my art education in college. It's like a lot of people, did you guys go to art school at all, or?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so where did you go?
I went to Academy of Art in San Francisco.
Okay, great friends. Do you ever go there and talk to them and talk to the students and stuff? And
no one's ever asked me to come.
Oh,
back.
Okay. Yeah, it's I've got good friends who've worked there and stuff. And
yeah, I mean, I met Wayshak when he came to do a talk for one of our classes there, actually.
Oh, I bet you that was a thrill a second.
It was kind of funny because he's kind of shitting on getting a degree and everything.
Yeah, like, I kind of feel that way in a way too. And it's like, trust me. I mean, I wouldn't go public on a podcast to talk about all the shit I've talked about with a lot of our friends. But no, I felt that way too. I went to Cal State Hayward at the time.
Okay.
And as an art major. And it's not an art school, but I was an art major. But at the time I was there, it was like this super freaky cosmic sort of, lightning struck twice time at Cal State. It's like when I went there, Clayton Bailey, the very famous funk artist, was a sculpture guy. I was like, holy shit. And I got to learn from Clayton. And then Mel Ramos was my painting teacher. He studied under Wayne Thiebaud and shared a studio with Salvador Dali, and was contemporaries of Warhol and Lichtenstein. He's open up a art history book. Mel's in there, and became a great friend. And I really studied closely with Mel. Learned a lot about rendering and stuff like that. And people who go back 20 years into my portfolio, they go, holy shit, your paintings are, how to, this is so insane, like I didn't think you had, it's like, yeah, if it's a landscape object or figurative stuff, I was super able, made sure I was absolutely super able at that.
You can see little glimpses of
you
that.
Can.
Like you sometimes will put things in and I'm like, it's almost like I feel like you're giving like a nod, like I could do this shit if I wanted to, but
yeah,
I'm doing this.
I don't do that intentionally. I think it just creeps up. But that was sort of a foundation obsession of mine. But the biggest moment for me was that Enrique Chagoya was going between Berkeley and Stanford. And it was kind of at a great time to be in his, proximity to be working with Enrique. And we were friends, and we worked outside of just the school. And I learned a lot working with him, working in a studio and being around him. And Enrique's a short list of greatest living artists, and by anybody's standard in the world, he's like that
I'm actually not familiar with
Uber.
them.
Oh, please
Go
Google
look
it.
'em up.
Everybody out there, anybody listening to this, Enrique Chagoya. He is an absolute master artist, you know, and his shows are like the De Young, and, you know, MoMA,
Okay.
solo
Oh, wow.
shows, you know, stuff like that, you know, and every major museum in the world has, you know, his works in the, you know, there he is. Yes, I love Enrique. But to see his kind of take, and my attitude going into his printmaking class
that's some cool stuff.
was, I don't think like, I'm going to just knock this out. And then I come across this guy who I didn't know. I didn't figure out until after I was a student what really kind of the significance of who he was and how great of an artist and that he was really on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that struck me was he was the best teacher I've ever had. You know, like the way he taught art. Art is such a hard thing to teach because you're not just teaching the techniques and stuff, especially with printmaking. It's such a technical thing. You know, we're doing etchings, lithographs, dry points, you know, we're relief printing and stuff like that. But he knew how to really teach you how to expand your own ideas of creativity without compromising or being overly influenced. And it's a lot of balance. It's very tricky. And it's a thing, you know, I've always...
His work is amazing.
Yeah. He's a super artist. Like, you know...
This is hilarious right here. I like how he puts these like funny moments into it. Like,
yeah, there's some politics. There's a lot of a cultural. That's a picture of Enrique back when that was I think he showed me a whole new way of embracing the things that were diminished by other professors. You know, how to work in things that are personal to you, how to make your statements. And it made me go, oh man,
that's awesome. That's such a rare
cartoon if I want to
find
cartoon
in an art school.
You know, paint if I want to paint.
Right.
Do you know, studies if I want to do. It's all okay, and it all can be integrated into your own vision, and you don't have to set limits. You know, it's just like it's.
You see pop culture references too. That
and that's the thing. I guess his concept of appropriation taught me how to appropriate right in a way, you know, and not because it's so easy to do appropriation where it doesn't come from an honest place, you know, and you know that happens when you do something akin to appropriation. You walk away from that project not feeling quite okay with it, or you feel some sort of like, you know, some shred of responsibility for what you've made.
Right. And
for me, you know, it's, I learned a lot. I navigated that when I was younger through walking away from projects going, that's, I don't know how honest that was or how that could be interpreted when you're appropriating, you know, something like a pop culture thing to make, to enhance your statement. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just, oh, you're just biting, you know, or you're just copying something, or you're doing it slightly your way, but there's nothing more than that. But if it's done right, I think it's one of the most powerful visual tools, because you're relating to people who already have an identity or some sort of concept of what that represents. And then you're guiding them to kind of explore different ways of, kind of negotiating that concept that they have. So it's like, so I think he taught me the most about appropriation, and he taught me a lot about teaching too. You know, it's just like when you're trying to, you know, when I'm working with my son or I'm training somebody in the field, I just saw a guy who is as gifted a painter and as brilliant, you know, as he is as a painter and as an artist. He's brilliant. He's equally brilliant at teaching, and that's super rare. And for an art guy who's like a powerhouse, a superstar artist, like to have like zero ego in the classroom, to really just, I mean, the compulsion, the influence grew on me quick. Of course, I was enamored with him and enamored with his, you know, his rise and that energy around him. But he really kind of, you know, helps you stay on your own track, you know, keeps, you know, he doesn't need that validation from his students that I've noticed a lot of art professors do, or there's some sort of vessel for their frustrations for not having been as successful as they could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because I do talk to young students at these universities, and I'm asked by some faculty, and it's funny because of the kind of art I do and that I'm doing it now, and in the manner that I'm doing it. It's you got to be kind of careful, but you got to be real at the same time. And sometimes the kids are like, oh man, like they get ask you ridiculous things, like, I want to, how do I get into the juxtapose or something or
Sure,
something? And you're like, why would you need to know how to do that? It's just like, it's like what you want to know is like, you don't worry, it'll happen if it happens. And if it doesn't happen, that's not the begin all end all anyway. You got to, there's other opportunities. There's a lot of resources if you want to be seen. That's not the end game, but they're so involved with the things that are just right there. And they're so,
that's probably the first time they've ever been asked that kind of question too. Like,
there's also a thing when you're young where you think that getting into a gallery will become the end of goal. And then you get into a gallery and you get into like this gallery and you're like, oh, it's just like, it's a great milestone. But like, if you're an artist, you're just going to paint. Like, it's almost like trying to figure out where the finish line is a waste of time, or figure out how to do this because it'll make you world famous is a waste of time. It's just, I always tell people whenever they ask me on Instagram, just try to get better. Like, try to always.
That's exactly it.
And that's all you should do. Like,
and be realistic if you do want, because the reality is if you do want to do certain things with your work, you have to know the business. It really helps, but to be educated and informed about like the area of art that you're interested in and how you want to pursue it, and I could speak of a few of those avenues, but there's no way I could speak of, all of them.
Right.
I just think the basics apply to all of them, which means you present something that is, a high quality product, something that you've, a skill set that you've obviously, really, developed and built on.
And have some depth too. That's like another thing I've realized is sometimes you'll see someone and they'll create something and they'll get some hype behind it, but they haven't sat in this like thing long enough to where once they kind of make a big stamp and they're now having to do all these shows, they get spread so thin and they have no depth to like their catalog of work they can do that they end up.
Yeah. It's like homogenous. It's very, and that's the thing is like, and that does work for certain artists. I've noticed they can sustain their careers for like a considerable amount of time off of like a very singular sort of thing.
Right.
And that is its own thing. I was always like, if you get out there and you start your, sort of career or whatever, being known for just switching gears, then you're going to be the guy who switches gears, and that's fine. That's a good thing to be. I'm a guy who switches gears, and it's like I could change up, but it's not like, oh no, it's like, oh, what are we going to do with this body work now? It's so different. It's like, it's kind of a little bit easier to kind of, for people who are representing me or actually relying on me to help them make some money, to go, oh, okay, yeah, dude, this Matt switches gears, it's just like, or he'll change up this or that
for sure.
So I think it's kind of a bummer when people get sort of stuck in that one thing. And then that sort of, because it's gotta be like a psychological sort of weight on them going, oh man, I have so much momentum behind this. Right. What if it's gotta be kind of terrifying to go, I want to change everything up, and then risk maybe not, getting the opportunities or the sustenance that they need,
for sure.
You know what I mean? So it's just like they must, so it's, to me, it's not just like, I almost feel kind of like, wow, that must be kind of intimidating for you or kind of, you know what I mean? To do that.
Yeah. And it, like with the students trying to get in juxtaposed, like, do you think you're ready? Like you have to build.
That's just like, it's just like, it's for young people. It's so easy to just sort of have not the most accurate sort of assessment of what you're doing versus what, and And the thing is it's like, of course we're going to be comparative. Everybody is to a certain level. Some people more than others. Who cares, you know? But when you're young like that, I don't know how capable you are of really seeing what you're doing, you know, as opposed to what's really going on out there. So I've noticed that a lot of young people who do really think they're ready because they feel it. A lot of that young artist is like, oh, I feel this and I feel like this. And they work under inspiration. And I go that the inspiration is the funniest, most useless term for me. I'm like, I put my stuff down when I walk in the door after a long day. I pet my cat. I give her some attention. I say hi to my wife, my son, if he's home. I go right to my studio. I'm literally from my car to my studio within 3 minutes, and I'm off and running. Do I always feel like doing that? Right. Or do I look at my calendar and see what kind of content demand I have for X amount of time? Right. Inspiration never really works into that. You know, it's just I'm content. I'm excited about the work or the show or the eventuality of what I'm doing. But sitting there doing it at that time, am I just sitting there going, oh man, you know, pass me another clove cigarette and another cappuccino. And I'm just like, I'm creating here. Everybody, you know, it's like, hey, everybody, look, you know, it's just like, there's none of that shit. It's just, and I think that's the thing I tell the kids. I go, oh, you go to these art shows, you know, and you get to meet your favorite artists, and that's great. You should go to shows. You should see what's going on out there. You should sort of see what that side of it is. Right. But that's like, your perception is like that moment. But that moment is one small, tiny moment. It's I'll put 2,000 hours into a show, and that's 2 hours of that show is that obligation or that moment of that show. Yeah. And a lot of it is just like trying to be a husband, trying to be, you know, a father, trying to, you know, get enough sleep or a decent meal, trying to get the show done, you know? So it's just like, that's why I think, you know, everybody wants to be an artist for a while, and then there's a few that are actually, you know, that's how the numbers get tapered, I think, is when these realities start setting in and people go, you know what, it's not so bad to, you know, work at my dad's.
I totally agree. And I think that's a huge determining factor is the work ethic of the artist. I see it a lot with a lot of successful artists where they work, you know, they are in their studio all the time working. And that's what sets them apart from, you know, the person who knows how to draw or kind of wants to pursue it. Yeah. You know? And that's great. If I love it when people they just like to draw but they draw when they feel like drawing. That's great. Right. It's like, what a wonderful thing to have in your life. For sure. You know, to be able to do that. And it's great when people put in enough work to get to that, like that, maybe that local level where they're at their, like, you know, it's like this art and craft festival in their town, or they got to show at their cafe and they get to have that moment. I think, for sure. You know, and that's just as important to them for what they're doing as us having a solo show at Spoke or something like that. You know, it's like, you know, it's all a perspective thing, you know? So, and if they put in an amount of time to get that and they achieve that, then that's, you know, or the amount of effort or whatever. It's the weird bitterness that I always go, what's going on here? Like, what do you mean? Where did you think you were supposed to be? You know, right. I mean, I think you guys have seen or met some artists that are bitter.
Please stand by. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
But yeah, you were saying people that expect to be somewhere that they're not.
Yeah, and it's not all the time, but I know we've all had those conversations, right? You know, once in a while, because it's a community of people doing things that they're interested in doing. So we all meet different, and everybody's got a different sort of vibe and personality. Yeah, I always like some people like, man, I don't understand what's holding me back and this and that, blah blah. And they're all super like, why am I not here and there and this and that? And it's just like, and so and so's doing this and they're not that this and that. Right. And I'm just like, and I'm sitting back just going, dude, your answers, like, it's just oozing out of your pores right now. It's just like, you put this on yourself. You have these, it's just like, you're your own obstacle, my friend. It's just like, and then sometimes it just comes down to the point, you know, the simple thing is just like, you know, objectively, you're just not that good. You know, it's like, it's nothing like, you know, like, how good am I going to be flying a jumbo jet? You know, I don't know. You know, it's just like, but I could be so not good at it that I could be in a simulator for 2 years and still crash it every time. You know, it's like, you don't have to be good at the things that you love. But it's heartbreaking, I think, for people when they love something so much,
Right.
but they don't have that knack or that talent, that intangible.
Even if you are a talented artist and you feel like other people that you think aren't as good as you are getting opportunities that you feel like you should get, you're just doing something that's being in that mindset is not productive. Looking at someone else and being envious of their opportunity does nothing for you. It just ends up making you bitter and complaining about them, when who cares? These artists aren't like, if you think that they're worse than you, then who cares? They don't think about you.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not.
What are you going to do about it? It's like, well, just tell them or don't tell them or be hurtful or not. It's like, I have enough toxic shit when I'm making my work. Sometimes that creeps in.
Right.
And I've noticed that when I'm getting sort of like negative or something about like how I feel about my work or how I perceive other people feel about my work or my relationship with this or that or the other, I always notice it's probably something to do with me.
Right.
Kind of where I'm at mentally. Cause I shift out of that really easy. And then I have moments where I'm just so thankful for everything that coming down the pipe. So when it is toxic, I usually go, yeah, man, it's just like, I'm stressed out at my other gig, or my allergies kicked in and I'm physically not feeling that great. Or, how great is it that could get 3 hours of sleep a night for 5 nights in a row? Now I'm just having this sort of like response to my work. It's like a lot of it is tied into something that has nothing to do with how my art is or how I feel about other artists and this and that, I know what I like. I know what I feel is good. I know what I feel is progressive and creative and innovative.
Right.
And that does come from, it's a good dollop of opinion mixed in with a lot of experience, mixed in with a lot of connectivity to other people who create. And I formulate all of it based on a lot of that stuff. And I'm remarkably open to a lot of stuff. And I apply apologetics to a lot of things. And it's maddening to some people where I'm just like, all right, cool. But I'm not cool with that because of this, that, or the other. And people are like, oh, really? It's just like, but I'm not wishy-washy, but it's just like, I do see like, I tend to look and see, well, that shows great capability. That maybe not be an element of that I don't like. But I kind of parcel out things. I don't just indiscriminately go, I hate all that. I love all that. I hate all that.
Right.
I probably over, complicate it. But but that's just the way I process stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
pretty similar in that way.
Yeah. I think it's better to have nuance with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about when you're assessing works that you love, sometimes it's the nuance that you that turns a corner, makes you really connect. You go,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's just that bit or that sort of, part of the rendering or that detail put in there. And then that's what totally makes me love it,
Right. Yeah.
Because without the nuance, it wouldn't have been as impacting to me.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, my favorite artists are always all over the board, like and it's always something like that, like something I can't figure out what they did that makes it what I love about it. Even like this artist you brought, Enrique, what's his last name?
Enrique Chagoya.
Like his stuff to me is like instantly, I'm like, wow, this guy's stuff's amazing. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people that don't agree, but I mean, teach their own. But to me, it's like I instantly am like, ooh, I've never seen this guy's work, but
yeah, and that makes me happy because I think a lot of us can't avoid, and I totally embrace and openly admit when I have a personal connection to something, especially when I could really get behind it as far as how well done it is.
Right.
Do I love Alex Pardee's work? Oh, fuck yeah, I love his work. I honestly love his work. I loved his work before I ever met him.
Yeah.
Having met him, becoming such a good friend with Alex and seeing what kind of guy he is and knowing what kind of human he is.
Yeah.
It's just like, it makes me happier about the honesty about how much I love his work. Right. And he's just great. Wayshak, Dave Correa, Skinner. I love them. I love these guys. They're great friends, but I fucking love their work, man.
Right.
It's just, and they're very different. Everybody's different. But I see what goes into it personally, and I just like them as people. And when I see that work on the wall, there's more, the personal connectivity, speaks to me a lot too.
For sure.
Mhm.
So when somebody doesn't know, Enrique or Skinner or Miles or something, and they look at their work and they like it,
Right.
I feel like, especially like, yes,
Right.
you only knew how cool these people were.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and on the other side of things, I think people could be affected by, because I'm very mindful of how, I am when I'm meeting people who go to the shows and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, it's just like, I got to just kind of tap into that. Like, whoa, okay. I'm so grateful you took a time out of your life to come out here and see this stuff, and see what I put this time into.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's never, I got in a car accident, a minor one, before myself and Miles' show,
Oh, really? Mm.
And for a second there, I was just like, I was really bummed. I was bummed because it actually worked out great. And the person, that the other person was super cool. We're all cool, but it shifted me, I'm like, oh shit, how am I going to feel when I get, and now I'm stressed and this and that going out there, and, nobody was hurt, but still it was just like, kind of like, this is not the day I wanted. This is the day Miles and I are having our opening. I didn't want it fucking a car accident. It's just like, but like, by the time I got there and I just saw how many people were like in line to come in and just how excited they were to see the show, I was like, no, I'm here. Just nobody deserves my anxieties concerning something they have no idea had happened that day.
Right.
That has to be shelved, and then that's tomorrow, I'll go and I'll deal with that tomorrow. But right now I really got to be kind of stoked, and it's weird when I see people, brutal. Have like weird reactions when they're public with people who admire their work. I'm like, I was like, what are you doing, dude? That's, you could be that way. That's cool. We're all human, but man, now's the time, to this person who's obviously very like, enamored with your work.
Really? I've never seen that.
Oh yeah. It happens.
Oh, wow.
No, for the most part, I think most people are nice, really. And it's been my experience for the most part, but that it's weird when it does happen,
right.
Just like makes it, but to me, it just makes me go, okay, this is why you have to, be super, connected to the people who like your stuff, and
for sure.
show them
Just
appreciation.
ego is kind of a waste of time, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is, but it's kind of an unavoidable thing. I think everybody's personality is kind of different, so
for sure.
Some people they kind of lean on it more. I feel like I've had, especially when I was younger, I had more of a connection to my ego.
Oh yeah,
definitely. And I really feel there's so much pride. I work so hard to this and that. And as I'm getting older, I'm going, yeah, it's just it's not that big a deal, dude. You're not the only one out there fucking making, the best work you can make. There's a ton of people out there who are killing it, making beautiful work, and they're great human beings too. So
yeah, exactly.
It sounds like your son is like in a way able to avoid some of that, like because it sounded like when you were doing the show with him, he was really nice and open with people. Didn't seem like he had that ego that you're talking about too badly. Yeah,
especially with that age. I think he has it too. He's 19.
Yeah.
There's enough self-awareness there to go, I'm 19 and I'm doing this, and like how many 19-year-olds are doing this,
Right.
It's just like he has some rarefied opportunities to do things. He knows, kind of where it came from and this and that. And he acknowledges that, if it's a connection through friends of his or his father or something like that, he's, he knows that, but I think he kind of, he has moments where I'm like seeing a young me and I'm like not liking it, because there's always that kind of thing where you see parts of you that you don't like. And there's no better mirror than your own children sometimes. And I've said, hey, listen, I'm guilty of that. I'm going to tell you right up as your father. I've had that sort of like vibe or that sort of take on shit.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to tell you, this is kind of how this is coming off, dude, and it's just like, I wish sometimes I had somebody to just check me when I was coming off as being an ass, and it's just like, but he's different personalities, a lot like my wife too. He's low key and he's got great humor. So he's not as bad as I was. And it's very easy for him to absorb when I kind of do check him. He's just like, dude, I hear you. I see what you're saying. All right, cool. Thank you. It's just like,
That's
he's
awesome.
never defensive and really weirded out or fuck you, dad. Or he's usually like, oh man. And then he's usually like, kind of like, yeah, wow, I'm pumped. Did that. A little embarrassed and I'm sorry, So,
Right.
so
That's
he's,
pretty good.
yeah. And for me, I would have been more defensive when I was his age,
For sure.
especially given opportunities like that, and I would have had a different take. And I've looked back and went, oh man, that some of that attitude, especially when I've identified myself as an artist,
Right.
that shit is like not attractive,
For sure. Yeah. I don't know. It's whatever.
It is.
It's, when you're young, there's just an ego that it's also kind of like a good thing in a way. You know what I mean? Like when you're young, you're almost fearless about like putting yourself in predicaments you're not ready for. And that kind of does help sometimes. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And at the same time, you look back at it and you're like, God, like I was fearless, but stupid as shit. Like it's this like thing that, it's like almost a way of like, it's like the whole like Shakespeare stages of life thing. You just like are young and you get good things and bad things out of it. And
it can propel you to that next level sometimes,
for sure.
But
Yeah.
It's also just experience too. As you get more under your belt and you have more life experience, I think it just kind of shapes and mellows you out, and or maybe it doesn't. Some people get more bitter and more.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Everybody's different.
That's the flip side. Yeah.
For me, I'm mellowing out a lot more. For the next guy, it might not be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Well, I think we're pretty much done. We about to hit
we're almost at 2 hours.
2 hours. I know, Serge, I don't know if you want to do the whole like David Cho money.
Oh,
here's a random last minute couple questions.
Yeah. Well, it's basically like David Cho made 200 million off of Facebook and all that. It's just a fun question to ask artists. Like, if you had that kind of money, is there some sort of like dream project or thing that you would do with it for your art?
I mean, you did talk about that TV show. I don't know if that would be.
Yeah, I would have. I'd spend generously on my artist friends who I believe in, for sure. I would definitely want to be the money behind their vision if given an opportunity.
Right.
So that would be one thing for sure. And for me personally, I mean, maybe a show like that, but the more we sort of kind of. We're learning, like it's a big learning experience to see what it takes, to do this sort of thing. I'm like, ugh, it's like, this is a lot. So maybe do a show. I think I'd build a roller skate rink.
Really?
Yeah, I'd definitely build a
cool.
roller skating rink.
Like the old fashioned ones.
Hardwood floor, all milled, like. And I build it in the Oakland area for sure, Bay Area, and just
cool.
open up a roller skating rink. So that's what I would do. My wife and I would.
That was not expected, but I like it.
Yeah, that's exactly. I've thought about it a lot. So I think.
Did you grow up roller skating or doing anything?
No, I've been skateboarding forever. But my family and I started like roller skating about 7 years ago.
Oh, really?
So we're like. Very distinctive style of roller skating. It's not very well known at this point. So it's like it's not. People have a perception of like disco skating or this and that. This is very, very different. It's kind of come out of
really.
Yeah,
is this a new obsession?
It is, and it has been. And my wife is super obsessed with it too. And Miles is unbelievable. Like he's freakishly good at this.
Really? Huh.
So
awesome.
It's your average person who knows about roller skating, roller rinks, and history that have no clue about what I'm talking about now. It's like almost abstract.
What is it called?
Basically, depending on which region of the country you're talking about, they call their styles different things. But it's like a rhythm skate, but it's kind of come out of Detroit, Chicago, Atlanta. And the thing is like, it is honestly, it's a distinctive cultural style of skate.
Wow.
and there's not a lot of rink opportunities for this culture of skating, this very distinctive and passionate culture of skating, to skate in the Bay Area. So yeah, if I got money like that, I would want to build that rink, facilitate this particular style of skating for all the Bay Area people, and host events there and stuff, so people from all over the country,
that's awesome,
could come and skate, and do that. So yeah,
Wow,
that's
so cool.
yeah,
Nice.
I've kind of fallen in love with it. So
Another American
Yeah, there you go.
obsession.
yeah,
That's awesome. Nice. Awesome. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
If you guys want to find your work, you can find it. You already said you don't like Instagram. You're horrible.
well, I know I love having an Instagram and sharing. I'm just bad at doing it,
Right.
But if you do want to see my work, it would be at RAT136.
Yeah.
And that's probably where you're going to just see the most stuff that I'm just kind of churning out,
For sure.
And sometimes you'll see 3 things in a day, and sometimes it'll be 3 days before you see one thing. So
Right.
I'm just not that consistent at curating it.
Right.
But also Twitter 136 spelled out, Facebook, I guess I have a page.
Okay.
Matt 136, I think, is the Facebook page. But I regularly check. And I've gotten better about checking messages and stuff with the Instagram, because if people are hitting me up about, like pins and stuff like that. So
Nice.
Right on.
yeah.
And so shows coming up. You have the Moleskine project in London. You're having a piece in that, right? You said?
Yeah. I have a piece in that. I have something at the Dark Emporium in Long Beach.
Okay.
I've got something going on. Oh man, this is bad. I have a few things going on, and right now I'm just kind of struggling to remember. But going into next year, I think I'm going to. I'm working on a project that I'm probably going to slowly announce on Instagram or something like that.
Okay.
Something that
Right on.
I don't want to get ahead of myself.
For sure. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Check out your work. Check out your son's work.
Miles, yeah, I think it's Miles.
Is he on Instagram though?
Oh yeah, he's on it. Let me see
And
what, I forget his handle.
We'll find it.
Yeah, it's Miles Ritchie, Miles. Just type in his name and you'll find his work.
Nice.
and thank you so much for doing this again. Anyone listening, please rate and review us. We highly appreciate it. We always forget that part.
We haven't gotten any new reviews in a while, so yeah. Step it up, guys.
We always forget to do that. But yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It was a super great conversation. And and if you're still listening, fuck off.
Thanks, guys.